In a Saturday night game that locked up a division title for the Vegas Golden Knights and got the Nashville Predators exactly 0 steps closer to the postseason, Nashville sort of showed up. We're going to talk about the positives and the negatives from the Saturday night game, and we're also going to talk about closure on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Monday episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and, of course, our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I am Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio and friends. You know I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Dear God, Emma, can you imagine getting through this season without a partner and misdemeanors and potential felonies?
No, impossible.
Can you imagine what we are already hanging on to avoid haggard by like our fingernails from this season. If we had not done this together, oh, bless. Everybody needs a partner in crime this Nashville Predator season, friends. Find yourself one. There's still 2 games left. On today's show, though, we are going to talk about the final road game of this season. It was, of course, Saturday night in Vegas. What could go wrong on a Saturday night in Las Vegas, friends? We're going to tell you. It was an interesting game. We're going to recap what we saw with one word, and we are going to dive into the philosophical and psychological topic of closure in hockey. We're also going to talk about why the heck the Preds can't win on the road. Emma, so many things to talk about. Some of them are of the variety where like we can't solve this because it is nonsense, but we've been down that road so many times this season with this Nashville Predators team where just nothing makes sense and the points don't matter. Like this is kind of where we are at. But let's focus to begin with on Saturday's game against the Vegas Golden Knights. The Predators lost 5-4 in regulation. If you had to describe this last road game of the season for the Nashville Predators in one or more words, Emma, take a stab at it for us.
I think I'm going to have to go with an old favorite here and say, sure. Yes. Predators score first, sure. It's Jordan Osterley of all course. People, sure. Then they give up the lead, yeah, that tracks. And then they actually fight back and tie it, sure. They lose, sure. Nothing surprises me with this team. I've said it countless times, but that's where we're at. But I will say, though, if we're talking about now, this does not erase or undo any of the past, disasters that we've seen this season. But I will say this team, this Nashville Predators team got outplayed so heavily for the first 2 periods of this game against Vegas. And that's one where you think like, after watching this team all season, as we have, you think, all right, well, that's it. They're lucky to only be trailing by 1 at this point. And then they actually fought back in the 3rd period. And now, again, results-driven business. It doesn't change the outcome. Vegas still wins. But that effort that we saw in the 3rd period to actually battle back and tie it before they eventually lost, it was like, oh, that's new. We haven't seen that a lot this year.
Yeah. Yep. My one word, literally taking the words right out of your mouth. Mine isn't sure. Mine is okay. Because, what else do you say at this point about this team? I agree with you. Nashville, through the majority of this game, was profoundly outplayed. They were outshot in the first period 15-5. And it looked like they were outshot 15-5. I mean, there was no confusion over who the better team was for a majority of this game. But it's that digging themselves out of the hole. They were up 1-0, and then Vegas came back in the second period, and it was just like, okay, here, this is it. This is the collapse. You know, we've seen it. We know it's coming. Here it is. And then the third period, all of the sudden, like you said, it really was this surprising. The Predators bent, they didn't break, and they found a little bit of effort to push back. And that has been one of the hallmarks of this season, is that if you punch Nashville in the face this season, they do not counterpunch. They just fold. And they did this time. So
yeah. And okay, yeah, no, we like, it's something that gets said a lot. I feel like, it has sort of become a cliche that it's like, you hear it in interview speak a lot where guys are like, "Oh, well, that's a good team over there. They find ways to win hockey games." But like, that is what makes a good team. And
right.
it didn't, obviously the result didn't turn out in Nashville's favor. Quite frankly, it wouldn't have been fair if it did, but I think that is true. It's like finding ways to win, and they almost did. Again, like you said, 15-5 shots in the first period. Nashville scored on their first shot of the game,
And
which
there was no way that should have gone in. Like, I was like, that looks like me.
And it came 8 minutes into the first period. Vegas had already put 10 shots on goal before Nashville put 1. And, I'm like, it's good. You'd like to see, again, we have not seen the lucky bounces go in Nashville's favor at all this year. That was a lucky one that went in Nashville's favor. It's, that hockey karma is evening out at this point. So it's, again, not, doesn't undo anything that's happened this year, but it was good to see the fight.
Yeah. We, of course, always ask our insiders for their one word to describe a game. This was a late game. God bless the insiders that hung in for it. Emma and I did, but I'm not saying Sunday was pretty for either one of us. Dustin's one word was, I ain't mad at it. They fell apart in the second, but they pulled up their big boy pants and fought hard to get back in the game. This might be the first loss this season that I am not upset, confused, or embarrassed by the Preds. And I was like, you're a little dead inside if you're Emma and I at this point watching the Preds. And I'm sure there are a lot of Nashville Predators fans that are the same way. They're like, look, I'm just shutting off the emotion and I'm watching hockey. But this was one of the first games where I felt exactly like that, where I thought, okay, you went up against a team that has a very good look to them. They have a very good chance to be very good in the postseason. And Nashville was not the better team, but found ways to be competitive. And you can walk away from that game going, that was not embarrassing. I understand why Nashville lost, but I'm awfully proud of how hard they tried not to. Man, most of the losses we've had, and there have been plenty this season, Emma, we've been like, oh, hell no.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, those first 2 periods were pretty embarrassing against
They were
Vegas.
tough.
Overall, yeah, you don't feel like there was a lack of effort.
No.
And that was good to see.
Yeah. Gayton's one word, I love this. My one word is today, Satan. It was not today, Satan, up until the last minute 40. And that's what happened. Nashville was down 3-1. They came back in the third period to tie this game up. Goal early in the third period by former Vegas Golden Knights player Jonathan Marchessault. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then the most random Mark Delgaiso goal. Locked on Mark Delgaiso's head is the name of the podcast today, because, and I don't remember, was it Justin Barron who shot it? I can't even remember.
Andreas Englund.
Andreas Englund shot it from the point, and the puck hit Mark Delgaiso's helmet, fortunately, because you know how I am about head injuries, and he just kind of headed it into the net. And you know what? Go ahead. I love how there was this moment of like, okay, his head was above the crossbar, but like there's not a played with a high head. Like, there's
Yeah.
that count.
That was
Stick it all.
That was another moment that was like, sure, he
Okay.
headbutts a puck into the net, sure. Like,
Sure.
when he started skating back to the bench afterwards, he started, like, banging his head, like, knocking his head with his fist, and at first you're like, "Oh, is that a new celebration, like, thing that they do?" And then it's like, "Oh, no, the puck literally went in off of his
Off
head."
his head. I know. I think that should be just how we greet Mark Delgaiso in the locker room from now on, Emma. Just banging our heads, just like, "Hey, that's the international Mark Delgaiso
I
greeting."
mean,
Um,
I too feel the need to just bang my head against something after watching the Predators all season, so,
yeah,
it works on
we
many
feel that.
levels.
We feel that, Mark. I do, and then just so that you understand what happened, the Preds tied up the game and were battling, and then with under 2 minutes to go, Noah Hannafin gave Vegas the lead. Nashville, I will say this, generated some great chances when they went empty net and added the extra attacker. They really did a great job pressuring Hill. Just could not get that late tying goal, but it was a valiant effort. The other player in play I want to call out is Zachary Leroux's pass to Jonathan Marchessault at the beginning of the third period for Marchessault to score. Zachary Leroux, did you take ballet? Like, totally pirouetted on skates and passed cross ice to Marchessault, who was crashing the net for that goal. If you did not see that goal in real time, go and look it up. It was just incredible. I watched the replay and I was like, Zach Leroux, you've been holding out on us. Like, boy can
Fresh
dance.
out the spin cycle. Just spin and deposit the puck, boom, right there.
Boom.
And it was good. We're gonna talk about it in a minute, but love to see that for Jonathan Marchessault too.
Yes. Yep. It was Jonathan Marchessault's. This blows my mind. This was his first return to the Fortress after being, after not re-signing with Vegas, having been one of the original misfits for that franchise. Coming up, we're going to talk about how that reunion felt for Jonathan Marchessault and what that may have done for him and to him this entire season. Today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. Growing your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, things including IT, AI, web development, even marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or you are looking for a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers that will help you grow your business efficiently. Visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, Emma, let's dive into this Jonathan Marchessault situation because I'm going to be honest with you. Barry Trotz said on in a radio conversation maybe a week or so ago, he talked about how players this year need closure and we're still trying to get closure. And I'm like, friends, we are 80 games into this season. I'm going to need you to have processed your big feels back when we were 0-5. Those were the 5 games I was going to give you for the feels. But I will say this, hearing from Jonathan Marchessault Saturday morning before the game and then watching this game, I I have a different appreciation for this experience, specifically for Marchessault. You and I had talked about this before the podcast. We were talking about like it was so good that Stamkos's was right away. Like he got to Tampa right away in the new season. But Marchessault, man, this sucker has dragged on for 80 games. And I think finally Saturday night, I was like, okay, now I have a different appreciation for I was here for 7 years and then all of a sudden I'm gone and I'm learning something new. So what was your take on Marchessault going back to Vegas and the whole topic that Barry Trotz brings up when he talks about these players need closure?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not just about how long he had been in Vegas. It was the fact that, I mean, it was a few things. First of all, Vegas has only been around, the team has only been around since the 2017-18 season. So they don't have this like rich history of, like their history is we're living it right now. And so Jonathan Marchessault being one of the original misfits, like, is a huge that already cements him as a really special part of that team's history. He was part of the inaugural team there, but then on top of that, he helped them bring, they went to the Stanley Cup final their first season. They won the Stanley Cup final, or they won the Stanley Cup a couple years ago. He was the Conn Smythe winner. When you win a Stanley Cup in a city, like, you live there forever. Like, whether you physically live there, like you are part of that market and that team's history forever. And especially him, he wasn't just on that roster. I mean, he was the Conn Smythe winner. So this was, a really, of course it was going to be emotional. I mean, it was emotional, same way for Steven Stamkos as well. And so I think that, again, like, arguably, I think you could argue it either way, but people were saying, oh, well, Stamkos, he was the captain and he won 2 cups with Tampa. But it's like, okay, yeah, Jonathan Marchessault was one of the original Vegas Golden Knights. Like, there was none before him. And so that is like, there is something to be said for that. And I think that he's a really special part. I mean, he's beloved there. And, it was, when you saw it kind of go down, and he even acknowledged this too. He's like, I'm a pretty emotional guy. And then you saw it, like, it brought tears to his eyes. And it's like, oh, yeah, I get it. That's hard.
I almost had to see it because, I understand that. And there are different aspects of, your life, my life, our listeners' lives, where you can maybe relate to this, where, something really special happened in a place and then you had to step away and leave. And there is a pullback, but I'm also like, dude, you got to be where your skates are. Like, and you're 80 games into the season. Like, how is this a thing? Well, Jonathan Marchessault, like you said, this is an emotional guy. And they talked with him Saturday morning. This was pregame, about how he was feeling about the tribute video, about being back in the building. This is what Marchessault said about being back at the Fortress.
I'm an emotional guy normally, so so we'll see how it goes. Obviously, it's going to be a exciting time for me. I mean, it's such a great building, great organization. Definitely happy for their success still, and I'm not even surprised a little bit. I think the structure and the organization is so great from top to bottom, and just happy to be back and see everyone. You definitely have some butterfly this morning when I woke up. It's an exciting day for me. For them, it's probably another game. But for me, it's when you have so much history, and I really think I had something special here. That I was here since the beginning, so I was part of building something here, so it makes it even more special. And it's going to be a lot of emotion for me today.
I'm not going to lie. I was surprised at how emotional he was. And again, for me, it was time. It was not his value. But I think, for the fan base as well, and I'm trying, again, you come up with like, what is the comparison? And I'm like, what if Pekka Rinne had gone somewhere else and he came back? I mean, that fan base, when they showed the tribute video, they love this guy. And it's very hard. Look, this is what's real. It's hard not to love Jonathan Marchessault, because you can say a lot of things about Jonathan Marchessault, but you can't say he doesn't care. And that he put everything into getting that Stanley Cup there. And winning it for, like you said, for that city. Like, you become a part of the lore of that city, that sports lore. And, Vegas doesn't have, like you said, they don't have a rich history in sports at all, let alone hockey. So I stand corrected. It makes a little bit more sense. My next question is, what is this going to do for Marchessault next season? Like, if Marchessault is back with the Nashville Predators, which look contract wise, he likely should be back with the Nashville Predators. I don't know. We'll talk about that in another episode. But is this going to be enough for him to feel like, now my feet are planted in Nashville? Now I'm invested in this organization. And by saying that, I'm not implying that he's been not invested here. But everybody thought this was going to be a very different year for Nashville. Stamkos and Marchessault thought they were coming to a contending team. We are coming to do the thing in Nashville that we did in Tampa Bay and in Vegas. And wah, wah, wah. Like, it could not have been worse. I don't know. Is this trip back? Is this going to be enough, Emma, to like reset Stamkos and Marchessault, getting this year out of the way? Is it going to help them? Is it going to make a difference, do you think, at all?
I mean, I don't think that it was anything front of mind for Marchessault. It's not like he was waking up every day and like, man, I still got to get that trip to Vegas out of the way. Like, I don't think he was thinking that.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something to be said for it. And it's like checking a box. When you go somewhere new, you have all of these firsts. And that was the last first for him. Like, to finally get that out of the way and feel like, okay, we've done all of the things now. And not in a sense that he was like, all right, let's get it over with. But it's more just like, sometimes you don't even realize how impactful that moment is going to be, or how much you needed that closure until you get it. And I think that was sort of just like, it was like unfinished business, and it's not to say that he's never going to feel a darn thing anytime he goes back to Vegas in the future. But it was like, okay, that, that was something. It was a final first. And I think that maybe that moment in itself doesn't do anything, to change things. But I think it does sort of illustrate, to at least to me, that like, because we've talked about this year, and you just talked about it, how just completely off the rails this season has been, how much we didn't expect it to be, to go this way. And it was like, no, things were supposed to be so much better. And I think a big part of it is like, the moments like Marchessault's return shows you that this wasn't just, a couple guys playing on new teams and you're just like, get over it. Come on. Like, let's move on here. It's like, it just shows you kind of the magnitude of the situation and why it has maybe taken this long. And hopefully, gives a little bit more hope that they can turn it around next year. Cause at first, you're thinking like, oh God, after the way things went this year, like there is just no hope for this team. And it's like, you see moments like that, like his return to Vegas and how much he means to that franchise and that organization. And you're like, oh yeah, this was maybe an even bigger transition for these guys than even we thought. And you and I feel like we, even at the beginning, were the more conservative ones in terms of being like, let's temper our expectations, everybody. It's going to be an adjustment. And it was an even bigger adjustment than I think we were expecting.
And we knew it was going to be challenging, but I have a new appreciation for how monumental that is, specifically in the situations with Stamkos and Marchessault this season. Coming up, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why I think that. We're also going to explain the practical challenge that Jonathan Marchessault faced going back to Vegas, and we're going to look at what we learned about the playoffs over the weekend. Today's episode's brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. If you are looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious, you've got to crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I am a no shells variety kind of girl. It is a great grab and go snack for busy days, whether I am sitting here at my desk working or I'm driving down to Bridgestone Arena, or I just hit that spot in the day where I know, okay, got to get some protein in me. They are a great and easy go to. But if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, they have an in shell option that is a classic favorite. So get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. You know, Emma, you were talking about how much of a big deal this was for the team. And I go back to the fact, especially with Stamkos and with Marchessault, that I think that these were 2 guys who were surprised that they were not still going to be with their organizations. And that takes it to a different level. And then when you look at Marchessault going back Saturday night, you know, when you leave an organization because the organization isn't, in your perspective, going to pay you what you are worth, they are not going to honor your value. And I'm just saying, I'm guessing that that is how I would feel if I was Stamkos or Marchessault. It is healing to go back and say, you know what, I may have not gotten the dollars that I wanted from this front office, but those fans loved me and everything that I felt about that place was real. And I think that's really important for Stamkos and Marchessault this season. Like, because I feel like maybe they left feeling slighted and they deserve to know that the dollars and cents is a separate issue than the fan base and the appreciation. And I think it was really good to see Marchessault get that Saturday night. I think he needed that.
I think that's a really good point. I think that, you know, it's validating. You kind of need that validation. It's human nature because you're sitting there thinking, I have poured my heart, soul, blood, sweat, tears into this organization. And like you said, I felt slighted by, you know, they didn't kind of show me the same respect back. We talked about it before the season that like Stamkos kind of looked like a kicked puppy and
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Marchessault looked pissed. Like he
His
was,
first media availability.
ooh, that was spicy. I was like, maybe we should have like taken a day, like to just like let
Maybe.
the dust settle, but maybe not because it was fun. But I think that it's got to do a number. Like I try to put myself in that situation and it's got to do a number on your confidence because you think like I have done everything and more, everything and then some for this
Everything.
organization. And then they respond by, you know, treating me like this. And I'm like, wait, am I not good enough? What more could I have done? Like it starts to just really mess with your confidence and you know, in your own abilities, in your person. And I think that going back and seeing as you said, the emotional response from the fan base, it does validate you because, you know, so that way you're not feeling as like gaslit maybe as you were before,
Yes.
that it's like, oh, yes, I did mean something to this place. Like they, you know, the dollars and the emotions are not always going to be aligned because it is a business and we hear that a lot like, oh, it's a business, but it is like it's true. And I think that is a very good point and it's got to be very validating because I mean, I can only imagine, you know, if I, you know, had to leave a place like that and maybe there was some bad blood there, some at least maybe not even bad blood, but just like some bitterness. And below that surface level bitterness, I think there's got to be some confusion and some self-doubt about
Yeah.
like, wait, did I like did I mean anything to this place?
Mhm.
And now you know that you did, and
Yeah.
you still do. And I think that there is a lot to be said for that.
Those two guys, Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault, did literally everything that you would ask a player to do with your franchise. They won Stanley Cups for their franchise. And, to part ways, again, like you said, it is a business, but I love that Stamkos got that moment early in the season. And I have a better appreciation for what Marchessault had to go through for 80 games to get that moment back. Because let me tell you something, that fan base loved him. They honored him. They showed him respect. There were a lot of signs. There was tons of cheering. When he scored the goal for Nashville, they cheered at the Fortress. And I'm like, he deserved that moment. Here is one moment that I don't think Jonathan Marchessault anticipated. He shared this when he went back. He didn't know how to get to the visitors' locker room, you all. A security guard had to tell him where to go. You want to talk about a moment that you just don't ever dream about, going back to your home arena, and then he had to have a security guard tell him how to get to the visitors' locker room.
Well, at least he wasn't called for a penalty. Then he would have gone to the wrong box. So that would have been another embarrassing moment for him.
Yes. Speaking of box, Matthew Wood made his first trip to the penalty box in the game Saturday night. And I was like, oh, look around, friend. Learn it your first time. There are no snacks there. Bless.
That
Loved
was a
what we
little
saw
bit
from
of
him.
That was a little bit of a, I'm not saying that this game was won or lost based on officiating, but there was a little, Vegas was getting all the calls going in their favor, and Nashville got none. And then where I forget, it was a hook that Matthew Wood was called for. I forget who it was on.
I don't either.
But whoever it was, I think may have studied theater with you in college, and because it was just like, just a jeté across the ice. It was like, all right. And
Yes.
we're calling Nick Blankenberg for embellishment? Like, really? So anyway.
I watched that game and I literally had the thought like, oh, look, there are showgirls on the ice in Vegas too, because that is how dramatic some of these Vegas Golden Knights players are trying to get a trip call. But, we'll just let that sit there.
I never thought that I would get to use my ballet background
Loved that you
talking
did.
about hockey. A grand
Dropping
jeté across the ice. Yes.
that.
Means throwing step in French, in case anyone was wondering. Jonathan
I love
Marchessault probably knows that.
He probably does. He probably does. But he doesn't do it, and we respect him all the more for it.
Yes.
This was another loss on the road, Emma. We're going to dive into this a little bit deeper on another episode because we're running out of time here. But Nashville, just throwing out these stats, let them smack you in the face, friends. 10, 26, and 5 on the road this season. 19, 17, and 3 at home. There's got to be a whole lot to that. We're going to dig into it on one episode. Do want to talk about the fact that some postseason situations settled this weekend. Winnipeg has locked up the Central Division title, the Western Conference Championship title. You go, girls. Nino Niederreiter, Luke Schenn. Oh, they panned across the bench and it was just a kick to the gut to see Luke Schenn sitting there in the wrong jersey. It's very awkward. And we found out with that and the way that the Central and everything settled in the Western, Dallas versus Colorado in the first round. Oh, Emma, I think that's going to be a really interesting one because little interesting weekend update for Colorado. Gabriel Landeskog skated in the AHL. He's on a conditioning stint with the Colorado Eagles. Skated this weekend, Emma, scored a goal. Are we going to see Gabriel Landeskog in the postseason? Do you think he can condition that quickly?
I don't know. I think that we can. So, we're not going to see him before the postseason because Colorado quite literally does not have the cap space to add him before the postseason because he's been on LTIR. But, I could see it. Why not? He has not. It's important, though, to remember he has not played in an NHL game since the Stanley Cup final in 2022. So it's been a minute. and we don't know how impactful he is going to be if he does return. But I don't see any reason, if he's feeling okay, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't add him to the roster. But I just don't for the postseason. But I just don't know that we should expect him to be necessarily a major X factor for this team in the postseason.
Right.
I mean,
That's
if
a lot of time without playing with your teammates. It's a lot of time.
He's been around the team though. He's been very present, and that's all well and good. I think though it was kind of funny. I submitted my first ever NHL awards ballot over the weekend, and one of them was the Masterton Trophy for just sort of the resilience and whatnot. And of course, Landeskog was the nominee for Colorado, and I was like, is this heartless of me to think, well, he hasn't come back yet.
Right.
Like, let's wait until he comes back, because the awards are regular season awards. They're not playoff awards. I'm like, listen, if he comes back in the playoffs this year, then he is absolutely guaranteed the Masterton Trophy next year. But I'm like, let's just see, because no one in the NHL has ever come back from this injury and this surgery that he underwent. Wow. So I'm like, impressive that he's trying, but let's see.
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of those really neat moments where, regardless of team that you root for or anything, where you just love to see him get back out on the ice. And of course, in Colorado, just such a cheer when he finished his first shift, and they all lost their Jesus when he scored a goal on Saturday night for the Colorado Eagles too, which you love to see. Vegas's win over Nashville, I believe that locked up the Pacific Division for Vegas, and they look like a team that is right where you want your team to be when you're going into the postseason. So they're going to be definitely a team to keep their eye on. When we talk about teams to keep your eye on, Nashville is one of those teams tonight, friends, because I know it seems weird, but we have a Monday night game at home against Utah Hockey Club. Again, just saw them, going to see them again. On tomorrow's show, Emma and I are going to recap that game. We're going to tell you what we saw from the Nashville Predators, how it compared to the recent win over Utah, and keep our eye on some of those younger players, again, like Matthew Wood, who continues to impress me. We're going to talk about that on tomorrow's show as well. Before we log off for this Monday episode, though, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work online at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for this Monday edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We hope that you go on and have a fabulous Monday. We will see you right back here tomorrow with that game recap.